edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, your host, along with...
There you go.
There we go. Along with Chris King, who is the expert here, okay? And we've got a Friday show for you, which is going to be fun. We're going to talk about college basketball. We're going to talk about, of course, the upcoming games tonight in the NHL and NBA. And just because we're these kind of guys, we're going to give you some inside tips on what might happen come Saturday when the NFL playoffs get started in Cincinnati and in Buffalo, where temperatures in the evening might be a bit chilly come Saturday night. What do you think, Chris? You're the resident weatherman and also statistician. What's going on there?
Well, as Steve Tasker would say, you better bring a jacket. It might get a little chilly in Orchard Park. Game time temperature is expected to be in the single digits, clocking at around 4 degrees. It'll drop down below that as the game wears on. Wind chills will be in the -5 to -10 range. I guess it'll be a good day for people to be drinking, but I guess, you'll see a lot of hot chocolate being sold at the concession stands. Meanwhile, in Cincinnati, our friend Bill Bender won't have to deal with that weather. It'll be 30 degrees over there for the Bengals-Raiders game. Too bad, because, if the Raiders had come to Buffalo, we could have talked about that game back in 1994.
Right.
With Marv Albert in his open talking about, what do you do when it's so cold, when the weather turns so cold, and then he comes in and talks about how, the game time temperature is 0, and with the wind chill, it's 30 below, and then he caps it off by going, and it snowed in Buffalo 28 of the last 29 days.
I'll give you, remember the late Harry Callis?
Yep.
Well, Harry was, I was directing DePaul and Georgetown were playing in Chicago. And it was on WGN in Chicago, and it was on ESPN. So, we get there. The wind was so bad. Harry had contacts. It blew a contact lens out of Harry's eye, and he didn't find it ever again. So the temperature on the outside, they have at the Horizon in Rosemont, which is basically in the parking lot of O'Hare Airport. It said the air temperature 4 degrees. It said the wind chill 31 below 0. Okay, I kid you not. So Harry's open. I said, we were talking about, what would we do for the open? And Harry said, look, I got the open. Don't worry about it. He goes, are you going to show the sign? I said, yeah, we're going to show the sign. Then we'll dissolve to you, and you do the open. It's like, okay, fine, we got it. So, I know what Harry's going to say. Harry goes, as you can see, the temperature outside is it's 4 degrees with a wind chill factor of -31. We're here tonight as the DePaul, Blue Demons host the Georgetown Hoyas. We're here because we're being paid. Why these 15,000 people are here, I have no idea. The game is on television in Chicago, and it's nationally televised on ESPN. As far as I'm concerned, we are now in the twilight zone. And I thought that was, when he said he'd handle it, Harry handled it and did it pretty well. So, yeah, cold is cold, and you can attest. You've been to Buffalo and you lived in Buffalo. So know this time of the year is not necessarily the time to book your vacation to Buffalo. Unless, of course, you like
people don't book their vacation there anyway. But, unless you want to, go skiing or, enjoy the food like John Madden would tell you.
There's a lot of good restaurants in Buffalo.
That's true. It's not going to be conducive weather when it comes to enjoying the elements.
Right.
Back for better terminology. That's why I would have liked to see a team from like the Raiders or the Chargers show up there. Unfortunately, didn't pan out that way.
Right. Well, and you've got, we'll send some sunscreen over to Bender since he's basking in the temperatures in the 30s, over in Cincinnati. Well, before we get started, and I gave you a preview, folks, by accident, because I hit the wrong button, we're going to talk about our buddies at Caesars Sportsbook. Now, Caesars Sportsbook has 2 deals that they've got coming on here with us, and it's really kind of cool. All right, so let's talk first about what they're doing for us, for those of us here with Winners and Whiners, okay? So what they're doing with Winners and Whiners is we have a deal where if you begin your process of making your first bet, okay, and putting your money in the deposit at Caesars Sportsbook with the app or for online, then what happens is they will match every dollar up to $1,000. Okay, that's a pretty cool deal, right? But it only works if you put down the promo code Video Winners. Okay, so Video Winners is your way, because you're here with those of us at Winners and Whiners, and you'll get a deal where they will match up to $1,000 when you make your first deposit and first bet using the app or going online. Now, if you happen to be in New York, and this is really kind of a cool thing, because if you're in a New York state of mind, we got some cool stuff going on there. What's going on in New York is really, they're celebrating the first week of sports betting in New York, and that's pretty cool. So what they're doing there is they've got a very interesting thing going on, and it has to do with they're going to match $300 when you put in $300. I'm sorry. Let me try to get this straight. It's here. There's a few things going on here technically. Let me reset. Okay. Take a deep breath, Jim. Here we go again. All right. Here's what we got to do. It's simple. When you're in New York, they're going to give you a $300 bonus when you sign up and establish your account in New York, and they will match your first bets all the way up to $3,000. So when you when you sign up, you get a signing bonus of $300, and you get a opportunity to bet. They're going to match that bet up to $3,000. All the information is in the show box below. Remember, you have to be 21 years of age to be part of this, of course, to wager. And secondly, as we say here with Caesars and with Winners and Whiners, we definitely strongly recommend that you bet responsibly. And we have our guest here who is joining us, and he's Ray Kennedy, and Ray is a buddy of ours. Ray joins us on most Sundays as we do Buccaneers pregame. And Ray, welcome to Just Parlays, buddy.
Wait, where's the camera? No, I'm kidding. Hey, Chris. Hey, Ray. How are you guys today?
We're good. We're good. And you're what?
You're in your car. Wait, who's driving?
No, I'm actually in car line. And here's the thing. There's a school here. I went here in 1983, and my son, all 3 of my children have gone here. It's Madeira Beach Elementary. As I'm talking to you guys, I'm going to break a big rule here, Jim, but I got to show you what I'm sitting here looking at while I'm talking to you guys.
Go
Do you
ahead.
mind for 1 second?
Sure, go ahead.
All right.
Okay.
Can you see the water and
yes,
the boat,
we can.
the intercoastal, right? So anyway, I'm sorry. That's the Tom Stewart, and that's what I liked about this school when I went here is that one of the hardest things was my literature class was in the back quad here, right on the water, and they were trying to get us to sit and talk about Dickens and read literature while there were 50-foot sloops sailing by slowly. And had to be the hardest thing I ever had to overcome. So how are you guys doing today?
We're doing okay. We're getting ready for the football games this weekend, and we wanted to bring you in to talk a little bit about the games come Saturday first. So
yeah, we know you're picking the Eagles.
Actually, Chris, I didn't know you were a Cubs fan. I wouldn't even know. I like the Cubs. Jim, if you don't mind me, I'm going to tell you, I just got done. The reason why I'm a little bit late, and I was almost late getting my son as I was ready. I wrote an article this afternoon, and basically it's titled NFL Playoff Football and Family, the Ties That Bind. And it basically, I watched a throwback movie, but it started making me think about, because we know the second season for the NFL is so much different than the first is a marathon to qualify. Now you got 14 teams, and it becomes a sprint to the finish line.
Right.
And I'm trying to remind people and Chris, I'm sure you agree with me, and Jim, you as well, be cognizant of the people you're around, whether you're working or you're at home with family or you're at a sports bar or wherever you are. Be cognizant, because it's the celebrations with the friends and the successes and sometimes the failures and the memories that we create during this second season for the National Football League is really where the good stuff is all at.
I don't think there's any question about that. And I think the other thing that I try to explain to people is that, and I think this is equally important. Look, embrace the fact that you made the playoffs, okay? That's a pretty good accomplishment. You could be one and done, no matter who you are, okay? You only have to have one bad day. As the old line in Airplane is, I picked a bad day to have a bad day. But you could be gone. And a lot of people go crazy and they get mad and they get all this anger. And to me, that's, come on. I mean, you've got a team that has slugged it through 17 weeks and made it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And this is icing on the cake. So enjoy.
I'll tell you, but Jim,
you
go like the Bucks from 2007 to 2021, 2020. You go 14 years without making this second season, this postseason, and that's why I was trying to come across the article, because being a Bucks fan, we had our shares of failures as much as success. Although we haven't had as much of a success, we haven't had as much playoff experience as a lot of your other teams. Ours is a smaller sample size, but even in the losses, it's the you lean on each. I kind of covered that in a story I wrote. Lean on each other. You have shoulders. You may be a shoulder to lean on. You may need a shoulder yourself to lean on. But again, 5 weeks from now, we're all going to be looking at the NFL draft and figure out who the team's going to take in the first round if they have a first round pick, unless you're the Rams. So that doesn't matter. But so enjoy even the failures. Memories are made. Just enjoy it as it all comes.
Absolutely.
Or if you're the Jets, you have multiple top 10 picks, and you wonder how they're going to blow those.
So I think
the Giants, maybe you draft a GM. Sorry.
Yeah, well, they could. It's funny. I've a buddy who is a linebacker for the Giants, and texted him the other day to see if he could be free this weekend. And he said basically they're sitting around waiting for the white smoke to come out of out of the Meadowlands to find out who their next coach is.
Find out, yeah.
I was thinking that Coach Forrest, who in Miami, wouldn't be a bad pick for the Giants. I think he would be a good guy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm thinking back to the Pope reference and the convening of the Cardinals. But if Mara's the one who's convening and he's leading that meeting, chances are they're going to really have to make it there's going to be a lot of white smoke, a lot of dark smoke before we finally get that white smoke. But the Giants really have to make a good decision time. They can't have another 2-year coach and going up decades. They've got to. You're in the number one market. You guys know this as well as I do. But anyway, I don't want to get off too far. You guys, Caesar Sportsbook. Let's talk a little bit about these games this weekend, guys. I want to know what are we looking at on Saturday? What's the first game on Saturday?
Okay, Chris, go for it, buddy.
All right, well, we start down in Cincinnati, where the Raiders are going to come to town and take on the Bengals. These teams met earlier this season. The Bengals rolled to a 32-13 win. It was a close game going into the fourth quarter before Cincinnati pulled away. As you know, the Raiders won 4 straight ending the regular season. They won those by a combined 12 points, which is the smallest margin of victory for a 4-game win streak to close the season. We saw that 34-31 win over the Chargers on the last play of overtime, basically the last play of the regular season that got them into the playoffs. Now they have to go to Cincinnati and face Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and company. I think it's going to be an uphill climb for Vegas. They're a middle-of-the-pack team offensively. David Carr, he's got Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller, but they don't have a deep threat. And can the Raiders' secondary keep up with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd?
Can that Raiders defensive line, which is going to be bringing the heat, can they get enough pressure on Joe Burrow to shake him up a little bit, a la how you would play a Tom Brady, and I'm sure the Eagles are planning to. Good thing. I'm a people person, Chris. I can't do the numbers like you can. That's why I rely on you, my professional handicapper. You know this stuff, but I got to wonder if the Raiders put 4 together for Bisaccia. And Bisaccia was the special teams coach here in Tampa Bay. He's been 4 times, and I wonder how much success, or have they already had enough success that Mark Davis is going to consider keeping Bisaccia, or do the players feel like they have to have a win in the playoffs and play inspired football? But you know better than me, Chris, when it comes down to personnel versus personnel.
Well, I mean, you're right. They played good ball for Bisaccia. I mean, obviously that whole thing was a dumpster fire with Gruden and those emails and everything else that led to his demise. The big thing for the Raiders, and you pointed it out, the defensive line, Ken Yannick, Ngakoue, and Max Crosby get after Burrow, who was bumped 51 times this season. Interesting stat. Of the previous 14 quarterbacks to get sacked more than 50 times in a season, you know how many have made the Super Bowl? None.
How many? Oh, yeah, that's good. It makes it a lot harder to make that marathon, even though I'm correcting myself, as I said a moment ago, now we're in the second season of the sprint, but it's still, you put it together with the preseason and the 17 regular seasons, and then it does become a laborious marathon.
Yeah, it's definitely a grind. I mean, you saw the Bengals, they didn't play a lot of guys last week against Cleveland. They lost in the backup quarterback bowl that nobody wanted to watch. Definitely the Browns didn't care. But you know, that cost Cincinnati in a way because it dropped them from the 3rd seed to the 4th seed. So now they get the Raiders instead of New England. Vegas,
is it a blessing or is it a curse?
Vegas 3-11 in their last 14 after giving up at least 30 points. The Bengals covered the line in each of their last 4, and each of their last 4 after throwing for less than 150 yards. Because let's face it, Brandon Allen wasn't scaring anyone last week. And the last 5 times these teams met, the Raiders 0-5 against the spread. They're a 5.5-point underdog here. You have to wonder, at least like Jim said before, Bill Bender is probably in shorts with the weather going to be about 30 degrees at game time, so it won't be too bad for Vegas. But, I mean, you're looking at 2 teams that have not had success in the postseason in going on 2 decades now. There's no real.
What's the line on this game? I'm sorry.
Oh, the Bengals are favored by 5.5.
Okay. Do you think what line? I don't know if you like that line or not, but you know they're in Cincinnati. It's Burrow's first home playoff game. They win the division. They're playing inspired. He's got an offensive line that has to keep him up, but he's got the talent around him. And if it was in Las Vegas, if this was a home game, I don't even know if that line would move. I'd probably still have the Bengals at 5.5 in Vegas. Or is that how you'd see it?
I think if it was in Vegas, the Bengals would still be favored. I don't think it would be that high. You'd probably be looking at 2.5 or 3 points. The problem with the Raiders is, you know, they don't scare anybody offensively, and this is typical because obviously everybody knows the way the Raiders are. They're undisciplined. 142 penalties in the regular season. That's nearly twice as many penalties as the Bengals took all year. The Raiders can shoot themselves in the foot, and you know you can't afford to turn the ball or put yourself in down and distance situations that are unfavorable for you. Facing a team like Cincinnati with that quick strike offense, Burrow can go over the top, face our Higgins in a hurry. And the Raiders secondary, not all that great.
Well, and the thing is, like the Buccaneers, their secondary before, Sean Murphy-Bunting and Jamel Dean and Whitehead come together, I always say a great front seven makes up for a weak back seven. The Raiders, the strength of that defense is 100% that defensive line. And they're going to be putting pressure on Burrow, but I think he steps around it. And plus, they get Mixon running the ball, and it's in Cincinnati, and it's going to be playoff. I say it's going to be playoff atmosphere. It is going to be playoff atmosphere. Buccaneers, their secondary. I got. And I apologize to you guys. I'm going to have to leave you guys in about 15. So if you need me to get out of your way, let me know. Only because when the car line starts moving, I can't talk to you.
Yeah, I remember the car line days. So those were not the most entertaining things in the world.
Well, I'm talking to you and Jimmy Dills. It is. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
That's the early game. Well, early being 4:30 in the afternoon. Of course, the late game tomorrow night comes to you from Orchard Park, Ray, where the Buffalo Bills, the AFC East champions for the second straight year, get to face Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. These teams split in the regular season. New England won 14-10 in that windstorm where it looked like a small tornado was whipping through Orchard Park.
Wow.
But then when they went to Foxborough, Buffalo won 33-21. It marked the first time in Bill Belichick's coaching career that the opposing team didn't punt. You look at the way things went down the stretch. Buffalo won their last 4 after they lost that game to New England, which followed the Tampa Bay loss that we talked about before. New England 1-3 down the stretch. They lost to Miami last week on the road in what was even scarier is they gave up 170 yards on the ground to a Dolphins team that everybody knows doesn't run the football very well. Just so you know, Ray, I'm sure you're enjoying the weather down there in Florida. Game time temperature at Orchard Park tomorrow estimated to be about 4 degrees.
So we're going to have snow?
There's some snow in the forecast. I don't know how much it's going to be. Wind chill going to knock down between 5 and 10 below.
I'll tell you why, though, Chris, because this is what I feel about this game right here, with it being, again, the third time they're playing each other to split in the season. This takes me back to Bruce Smith and Marv Levy and Jim Kelly and Andre Reed and Thurman Thomas and, just the whole cast and crew of what we all down here. And I'm glad you actually segued with this because, it might be in the 70s here. It's going to get a little cooler this weekend, but I always have mad respect for Orchard and watching the Bills and teams that had to go in there. And plus, they were facing a pretty formidable team coached by Marv Levy back in the day. But I believe that Sean McDermott's team is finally going to stand up and really, they played well for him. They're a great team. They win the division. I think that this is the weekend you see all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted, and I think the Bills are going to put a whooping on those New England Patriots. That's just how I feel.
Well, an interesting stat about this: New England just 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 after giving up more than 150 yards on the ground. And let's face it, like I said, they got gashed by Miami. And when's the last time you saw Miami have a good run game, Jim? Morris and Kick.
Zonka.
Yeah. So there you go. Buffalo 3-0-1 against the spread in their last 4 overall. They're 6-1-1 against the spread in their last 8 against the East. They're 17-5 in their last 22 after running for more than 150 yards in their last game. One big change that we saw from the first meeting to the second one, Ray, is that Buffalo utilized Josh Allen's legs. He ran for 64 yards in that game, and you saw it in the second half of the Tampa Bay game firsthand what Allen can do with his legs. Is that something that New England's going to have to try to adapt to? Because obviously it's helped Buffalo boost their run game along with Devin Singletary.
I'll tell you what, and Mac Jones isn't a very mobile quarterback, although we did see him in Alabama get outside once or twice, but then you think back to Bill Parcells starts seeing, whisks of what happened to, Bledsoe back in 2000 when he gets popped by, not Brian Cox, who was the middle linebacker? Lewis. And he puts that hit on him, the poor guy gets internal bleeding. I would think that it would be just like a Belichick to try to get a Mac Jones out of the pocket and try to use whatever mobility that kid may have. But then again, he's also hard-headed, probably keeps him straight up in the pocket. Yeah, Allen's the most dangerous threat on that offense, but bury the lead. There's a few more dangerous threats as well, but when he's moving outside the pocket, extending his time, and also using those legs to run, the Bucs let's be honest, Chris, the Bucs beat the Bills. I go back and I've watched the tape on that game a couple of times, and I think if we played that game 5 times, the Bills would win 2 out of 5, maybe 3 out of 5, because really that game went a couple of ways, and the Bucs were able to do a couple of things, but I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but I'm just looking forward to that game tomorrow night. It's going to be solid.
Let me go back, if you don't mind, over to the Cincinnati game. The thing that is interesting to me about Burrows, right? It's his second year. He's got a little bit of understanding, but he's a local kid. Okay. Can you imagine how many tickets and all the crazy that's going on? And, he's trying to deal with the game, and he's trying to make sure that mom and dad and the family's all taken care of and all that sort of stuff. And it's as crazy as it sounds, okay? These are the types of things that players have to deal with during the week if you're a home team situation, right?
Wow.
So you're
spoken like a man that has the experience, Jim. Having been there and seen it so many times.
Your phone is blowing up from cousins you didn't even know you had. Asking about tickets and all that other stuff. So I'm wondering how much of, in some regards, the off field becomes you're praying for the game because okay, well, I don't have to think about looking up in the stands or worrying about tickets or wondering if the car's going to come in time to pick up everybody, or how they're going to get in the stadium. Just get me to the damn field and let me play.
I'll have you, Jim.
Yeah.
So right when you said that, I'm thinking on the other side, you got Derek Carr taking care of his brother, David Carr taking care of his brother, Derek Carr, the quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders, also in his first playoff game. So maybe you've got Derek from the NFL Network, and you already saw it with the win in the last season, Chris. You saw him celebrate. He said they went out and they had an In-N-Out burger. So I don't know what I was doing there. So anyway, So you see Derek Carr going in there and say, I'll take care of everything, David. I'll do this. I'll get tickets for everybody. I got this down. I played in the league. I understand. I'm with the NFL Network. But you wonder, Jim and Chris, does that put pressure then on David? Because Derek's there and he's all this excitement and all this stuff. And even though Joe Burrow's on the other side having to deal with this on a boots on the ground level, you got David over there thinking, my God, David's inviting the entire, or Derek's inviting the entire world to come in here. Am I going to be able to survive this? So it's actually a good contrasting argument.
Yeah.
Well, to quote Bobby the Brain Heenan, a friend in need is a pest.
That's true.
Oh, man.
So there's 3 games tomorrow, right? There's 3 games. So there's a night game. What's the night game? Oh, wait, Chris, you didn't tell me. I'm going to guess because, I don't look at lines. Because, like I said, Chris, you're the guy, and you and Jim, you guys know the lines. You understand how these numbers work. I'm just the emotional guy. I'm guessing that the Bills are favored just because of the fact they split the season and everybody thinks that the mad scientist Belichick. I'm going to say the line right now is 2.5.
It is currently 4.5.
Oh, okay. I like that. That means they're giving the Bills their due respect, and I think that they're going to be able to do that. Let's just hope it doesn't get too big. The Buccaneers, if I see a double point favor on the Bucs game on Sunday, because every time they've been favored by double digits this year, they've lost, I am going to get so. Well, actually, they weren't favored by double. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What's the nightcap tomorrow, Jim?
There isn't one. The Buffalo game is the 8:15 game.
Right.
Oh, okay. So there's
It's
3
Sunday
on Sunday.
night. Steelers in Kansas City.
Philadelphia, Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay leads off on Sunday, and then the 49ers and the Packers. And I'm 49ers and the Cowboys, excuse me. And then we go to the nightcap, which is Kansas City and Pittsburgh.
And people want to know why Pittsburgh and Kansas City should be the 8:15 game, because nobody's expecting that game to be close after what we saw 2 weeks ago.
It's West Coast, Chris, right? Because if they played it on the East Coast, that game, well, they could have made it 4 o'clock, but they couldn't make it at 1 o'clock because it'd be, at 10 o'clock. So the reason why I look at that and I go, oh, well, and then, KC is still one of the top 3 teams, of course, behind the Bills and the Titans as far as favorite to be the AFC, although some people would still make the argument that they are. Can we talk about the Bucs and Eagles game before I got to let you guys go? And I apologize for having to do this.
Go ahead.
Sure, that's what we're ready to talk about right now, right? The Bucs favored by 8.5. I mean, you remember these teams met in Week 6. Tampa Bay won 28-22 in a game that wasn't that close. It was 28-7 late in the third quarter before Philadelphia scored a couple of touchdowns to make it a closer game. But that game was at Lincoln Financial Field. This one obviously down at Raymond James Stadium. It's going to be interesting when you look at it. The Eagles first in the league in rushing, Tampa Bay third in run defense. But you got Jalen Hurts. He's dealing with an ankle injury. He could be limited mobility-wise. Miles Sanders obviously dealing with that hand injury, and Ray disappeared.
Well, I think sometimes when you get to that car line, it can be tough on you. But I mean, we can finish up on that if you want to.
Miles Sanders is limited with a hand. Obviously, if he doesn't go, you'll see more of.
Here he comes. He's coming back.
You'll see more of the.
There you go. Welcome back.
How low can I bring your production level of your fantastic show, guys? I am so sorry, but I thought I was hitting mute, but I was hitting leave, and that's the reason why they make it big rednecks, right? But let's get back to the Bucs and Eagles. 10-10, 10 wins, 10 losses against each other. They got the series is tied up all time, 10-10. Of course, the Bucs have had 2 victories against the Eagles in the playoffs, and the Eagles have had 2 victories over Bucs in the playoffs.
The last time they met in the playoffs back in 2003.
And Rondé Barber closed the vet with a pick-6 interception to send the Buccaneers basically on to San Diego to play those Oakland at the time Raiders. But I'll tell you what, Chris and Jim, I get that they're letting Jalen Hurts use that phenomenal skill of his, and I get that they've found running game and and the guys are playing inspired. Don't forget, this team's only 3 years removed from their last Super Bowl appearance. So even though a lot of the cast and characters on the field aren't the same, you're still talking about a championship of a managed franchise. But let's be honest, not even if the Bucs were getting guys healthy back and everything, but really I look at this Buccaneers team, and if it was anybody else but Tom Brady quarterback, I'd go, look, I'm down on the team. There's no way these veterans will not win over a young team. But that's for you and for Tom Brady at quarterback. Tom Brady can break his leg walking out of the shower today and coach from the sidelines on a golf cart, and he's going to make 52 other players kick butt on Sunday. So I just can't see the Buccaneers having a letdown against this Philadelphia Eagles team, and I don't see the depth enough on theirs to overcome the fact that we're playing our first home playoff game since 2003. And No, we didn't play. Yeah, we did play 2000. No, we played at Philly, and then wait, I'm sorry here, but yeah, so it's been basically a long time. Yeah, I sorry, I just running off. Is that what you guys?
The key thing too about Hurts, Ray, is he's still dealing with that ankle injury, so you have to wonder, is he going to be as mobile as you would expect? Plus, you got Sanders with a broken hand. If you don't see him, you'll see Jordan Howard, you'll see Kenneth Gainwell, you'll see Boston Scott. I guess they try to get Deuce Staley out of retirement, but I don't think he'll be in the mix Sunday.
What's the situation, Ray, with JPP and the outside? Because you need contain. That's all you need for Hurts. I mean, keep him in the middle, and he's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, well, Jim, he's back. He's here. He's at practice. But of course, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, the rookie out of Washington, who bucked number 32 this last year. That's the thing that scares me. That's the one thing, is that Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is such a phenomenal. He's showing already to give. They made the Bucs. We called it. It was a comfort pick, the Bucs. But the fact of the matter is, this kid can flat get off the side, but he's got a whole contain on Jalen Hurts. And that's one thing with JPP. JPP takes more of a direct line, like a veteran would, and containing the corner and keeping Jalen Hurts in the pocket. But JPP's back, and we've got Leonard Fournette back. But every time we talk about it in the local media here, it's always like, and we'll see if they're at Sunday, because mind you, they've just been put back on a team to practice for that 21-day period from IR, assuming that they're going to be fine enough to get activated and be ready to go on Sunday.
And what's the latest on Shaq Barrett, Ray?
He's good to go. He's back from. He actually was injured, but then the last week he was out was because he actually had to go into the COVID protocol. And we see how that's changing, guys and girls. And I'd be remiss if I didn't cover that here in my last couple of minutes with you guys. Not to be Debbie Downer, but the NFL, the week before the championship game, whatever four teams make the championship game, is going to increase their COVID protocols to the increased level where it's daily testing and separation, no family, and lockdown. So, Jim, to work it back, you're talking about the distractions, Jim, about like a Joe Burrow and a home crowd or a Derek Carr, this and that. And the fact of the matter is, remember, the teams that do get to those championship games are going to get held up. It's going to almost feel like 2020 again. But now I'm going to close with this. We all got to keep it safe because it's still out there. And fortunately, we've got vaccinations, or people have seen it, and we're starting to get used to it and everything. But people are still. So even if you're celebrating with friends, just keep wear a mask if you have to. Have fun this playoff season, because again, like I started this show off with you guys. Thanks for having me. It's the good stuff. It's the people you're with, the celebration you're having, the wins and the losses. Because not every team's going to win. This week, there's 14 teams playing. 7 of them are going to have their golf bags on Monday, heading to Bermuda.
Right. Well, Ray, we're going to see you on Sunday, because Chris and I are going to join you.
Chris.
Yep, I'll be there too.
Chris. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I want you, Chris, because, I didn't mean to talk over you today, but I get excited. But I need your statistical breakdowns and the actual numbers on Sunday. Because one, the lines are going to move. B, we've got injury reports. We'll hear more about JPP. We'll hear more about, Leonard Fournette. But we'll hear about all the players in the league. And that's why we're going to get your and Jim's breakdown on the pregame show on Bucs Report.
We're also going to have Bill Bender, who's in Cincinnati, but he'll be back with us. And we'll have somebody from the enemy camp. From WFMZ in Philadelphia who will join us. So plenty of fun
Jim's
stuff.
The producer.
Plenty of fun stuff.
Tease me, guys. So the Chiefs are the 8 o'clock and the Bucs are 1 o'clock. Remind me again is that the Cowboys and the Niners?
The Cowboys and the Niners, I thought, should have been flexed to the 8 o'clock game, because that's a history game.
Because it's romantic. Yes, it's got the history. You guys see today on NFL Network.
You have the catch in that game. You have, in that series, you have Terrell Owens and what he did, on the Star. I mean, there's a lot of history between those two teams. It's been a long time since there's been history with those two teams, but that to me would have made a better Sunday night game than the Steelers and Kansas City. But hey, they didn't call an ass. Right. I'm
glad we had
Go ahead.
everything. You guys know everything with me is symmetry, and I believe truly, even when the three of us are here talking football, I believe things work for a reason. And let me tell you why. Because I asked what 4 o'clock game was. You reminded me it was the Niners and the Cowboys, and of course Jim and Chris. We had Evan Wiener come on with us, and he's able to lock it down with the histories, of course, with losing Madden last month. And I want to wrap it back. I was so fortunate today. I turned on the NFL Network this morning. And I'm going to have to go in a second, guys, so I apologize. But I turned on NFL Network this morning, and you talk about that history. It was the last time the Niners and Cowboys played in the playoffs. And I think it was 92. Yeah, in fact, it was 92. But it was John Madden calling the game Pat Summerall. But they're showing and they're showing Michael Irvin, and they're showing Charles Haley and Joe Montana. And this is Joe Montana's last year, and the next year he went as a free agent to the Kansas City Chiefs. But again, that reminds me of the conversations we had. We did lose John this year, John Madden, but I'm glad we talked about that next year because we want to have those conversations again, fellas. I hope we can.
All right, well, promo it. Go ahead. Shameless plug, Ray. Shameless plug. What's going on? Sunday, it's a Cup of Ray, for those of you who are not familiar with it. And
so,
go ahead.
Have you ever watched it, Chris? Oh, you get invited?
I see it. I haven't been on there.
Oh, y'all have you on there? I didn't know you get up that early up there in the spoiled north of the upper state New York. I'm kidding. But no, of course, it's a sojourn for the sports savvy soul. I'm all, like I said in this entire interview, I think I've peddled myself the whole time, Jim, so I'll make it brief, but I'm all about the spiritual side, the people, the things, the emotions, the memories. Where were you when this happened? Such. So that's what Cup of Ray is basically in a nutshell. No, I get crazy and bring it live. I bring it sometimes on Friday night downtown St. Pete where people are running around drinking and smoking medically legal stuff and all whatever. But that's because, these days, especially with the YouTube, TikTok era, and I love these kids, and even us, people our age, you put a camera and a laptop up and go live from the sidewalk, you get people dancing and singing and telling jokes, and we get good conversation. So that's me. That's Cup of Ray. You can find that on Friday nights, on Sunday mornings. But Jim and Chris, more I want to talk about is our pregame show that we run at every Buccaneers. We'll be running for the Buccaneers this year all the way up through Super Bowl 56 at SoFi. When it's the Buccaneers versus those Bills, Chris. See how I did that?
Well done.
This way, find a way to lose. Maybe the officials won't give them a game like they did last time.
Wide right.
Yeah. There's where's the what I was going to ask you is Buccaneer Beach, right?
Well, Jim, so the thing is, right? It looks like the weather is going to push through earlier than they said. First, that if we know there's this beautiful weather I have right now. We're looking at these boats going by here in the Tampa Bay here, or the Intercoastal. It's gonna Saturday night into Sunday morning. We're gonna have a line of storms come through. So we're gonna get that. It takes 3 days, Chris. You know this, and Jim, you know this. It takes 3 days for any kind of weather you guys are getting. If it's strong enough that you're getting it, we see it. We just see it 3 days later and a whole lot lighter.
Mm-hmm.
But so that'll push through. The only thing that would stop us, Jim, is if the weather doesn't pass through and I have to go live. Because with the equipment, and the computer, and everything, and our satellite uplink, you got to make sure you're somewhere dry. But I've already reached out to the Buccaneers. I said, hey, can you guys give me a place? Maybe over at $1 Place, because you can see the stadium from there, and I can shoot from there. But we'll see, brothers. But anyway, no matter how you slice it, have a pregame show for the Bucs Philly game on we'll have it on 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. All
right. Well, we'll all be there. Take care. Drive safely and
love you guys.
say hello to the family, buddy. We'll see you.
Take care, brother. Thank you, Shem. Take care, Chris.
Okay, take care. Bye. All right. Ray Kennedy, the congenial host of the Bucs Report, and truly a fun guy, nice guy. He's a very passionate guy, as you can tell. Good writer. Check out his work at bucksreport.com. And we'll see him on Sunday at 11 a.m. And you can all that information on Bucs Report. You can find. Check them out on Twitter, on Facebook, and on their YouTube channel and all that sort of thing. They'll be happy to do it. What I'm going to do, we're going to get to some college basketball here real quick. But in the open, since Ray had come into the lobby at the exact time I was doing the Caesars thing, the screen kind of popped up on me here. So a little behind the scenes. I apologize for how I did the original Caesars commercial. So let me do Caesars and do it justice first, okay? They are a sponsor. We want to do justice to them. And the first one was on Ray. This one's on me if I screw it up, but I don't think I will. Here we go. All right. So why check out Caesars Sportsbook? Well, it's simple, okay? If you make your first deposit and bet with them over on their app or online, they'll match it dollar for dollar up to $1,000, okay? But you have to use the promo code And of course, that is Video Winners. Okay, so Video Winners will get you that deal. All right, so that's a very important deal, very good deal. So remember, if you're going to make your bet, go and establish your account at Caesar Sportsbook. Use the app or online, and they will match your first, installment there, that first wager you're going to make, dollar for dollar, up to $1,000. Now, because, and this is the fun part, because they are now in the state of New York, here's what's going on there. And that is really amazing. If you use the promo code Winners New from our fans in New York, we got plenty of them. Here's what they're going to do to you. They call it the Empire State Royal Welcome. You get $300 in bonus cash on sign up. Plus, they're going to match your first deposit up to $3,000. Use that promo code Winners New, and you'll get that deal. That's $3,300, folks, of free money from Caesar Sportsbook in New York. Again, it's called the Empire State Royal Welcome. You get $300 in bonus cash on sign up. Plus, they're going to match your first deposit up to $3,000 if you use our special promo code Winners New. Okay? So all kinds of good things going on with Caesars. Our buddies at the Sportsbook, please take advantage of what they're doing. And as we said before, you must be 21 years of age to participate. And as we also said, as always, wager responsibly. Okay, so I owed them that one. They're great people. And by all means, all the information on both those deals are in the show box below. And now we are going to do the Evelyn Wood version of our picks for the week and for tonight, because we had Ray here for 42 minutes. So let's see what we got going on the hardwood. We're going to Champaign, Illinois, I believe, right?
Yep. Well, first, let's just point out, I know everybody's confused about last night's game. Belmont was supposed to face Austin Peay. Based on what we said about that game, based on the fact that they were supposed to face the Governors. Yesterday afternoon, shortly, right around the time the show was on, Belmont had to make a switch and face Tennessee Tech instead because there were COVID issues in Austin Peay's lineup. That game will now take place on January 27th. So it kind of threw us off because we didn't know the fact that they were going to change teams up at the last second. There even was another team close enough that they were going to be able to play on such short notice. So we apologize for that fiasco. Also, good on you guys who thought that Seton Hall was in a trap game yesterday. DePaul ended up beating Seton Hall in a shootout. I didn't see that coming, considering how badly DePaul's played in Big East play. Just want to point that out to you guys out there. But made for some interesting games for sure. I know John was upset that Youngstown State lost at the buzzer, basically to, I believe it was Northern Kentucky.
Yeah.
But we'll move on now, talking about this game, like you said, Jim, in Champaign, Illinois, on the road or at home as they take on a struggling Michigan team. It's Michigan team looking nothing like the team that made that run to the Final Four last season. Illinois 12-3, Michigan 7-6. Michigan's just 1-3 on the road. Illinois 7-1 on their home floor. Fighting Illini have won 5 in a row and 10 of their last 11. Meanwhile, Michigan's lost 2 straight, including a 75-67 road loss to Rutgers in their last game on January 4th. So it's been 10 days since they've been on the floor. Illinois 10th in offensive efficiency, 19th in effective field goal percentage, 14th in three-point shooting, and they are first in offensive rebounding percentage at 41.3%. So plenty of second chances when the Illini missed shots on the offensive end. Hunter Dickinson, provided that he takes the floor tonight for Michigan, which the hope is that he will, has to have a big game for the Wolverines. He's probably the biggest guy that Kofi Cockburn is going to have to line up against lately. Dickinson, of course, 7'1", 260. He's also probably the leading option offensively for Michigan. The Wolverines need to get something out of him on both ends of the floor. He's got to contain Cockburn, or else it's going to be a long night for the Wolverines. in Champaign. Illinois 4-0 in their last 4 at home against teams with a losing road record. 6-1 in their last 7 against teams with a winning straight-up record, and 4-1 in their last 5 overall. You have to wonder, is the magic for Juwan Howard suddenly gone? Was he a one-hit wonder there in Ann Arbor? Because, I mean, they've still got a lot of the same pieces, but it hasn't panned out as well for the Wolverines this season. They've already lost, like we said, they lost to Rutgers. They also lost by 14 points on the road at Central Florida, and they lost by 21 on the road to North Carolina earlier this season. Not to mention an 18-point loss to Arizona on a neutral floor. So you look at it, Michigan's lone road win this year was a 35-point drubbing of Nebraska on December 7th. It doesn't bode well for you when you're having struggles, especially against a team like Central Florida. I mean, Johnny Dawkins, he's a good coach, but the Knights aren't that great of a basketball team, and you go on the road and lose by double digits to them. Now you're facing a team in Illinois that's pushed back into the rankings. Could be a tough night for the Wolverines as they battle rust and COVID issues there in Champaign.
Let's move on. We've got something going on, which is a lot of fun. It's a backyard brawl in the state of Ohio, and let's hit the highlights on the Akron Zips and the Kent State Golden Flashes in the game that will be played in Northeast Ohio.
Right. Akron's actually a 1.5-point underdog on the road here. The Zips 9-4, Kent State 7-8. They're coming off that disappointing 65-63 home loss to Northern Illinois in a game where they were favored by 15 points. Kent State's second straight loss, they've lost 5 of 7. Meanwhile, you're looking at an Akron team that's won 7 of 8. They beat Ball State by 10 at home the other night. The Zips 135th in scoring offense at 74.2 points a game. They're 42nd in scoring defense at 62.5 a game. Kent State struggles offensively. They're 244th in scoring offense at 69.4 points per game, which is kind of offset by their defensive play, but you're facing a Zips team that's very good offensively. They're a very veteran-laden team. Zips 6-2 against the spread in their last 8 overall, 8-3 in their last 11 against teams with a losing straight-up record. Meanwhile, the Golden Flashes just 1-6 in their last 7 overall against the spread, and 0-5 in their last 5 on Friday. I like the Zips getting the points. Like you said, in that backyard brawl in the MAC. Look for Akron to pick up their 10th win of the year for Coach John Gross as they knock off Kent State.
Well, speaking of the Flashes, let's flash on to the ice. We got some couple of games over there we want to check out.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Florida Panthers. They're at home at the FTX Arena, or the FLA Live Arena. Sorry, I was thinking of Miami Heat. They're a rather heavy favorite. The puck line's a little bit better if you're looking to get a return on investment as they face the Dallas Stars. Dallas is 18-13-2 this season. Florida 24-7-5 as they battle with Tampa Bay and Toronto among the leaders for the top spot in the Atlantic Division. Florida sparkling 19-3-0 on home ice. Dallas just 4-10-1 on the road. Really, Jake Ottinger again in goal for Dallas and Braden Holtby in the COVID protocols. He's 9-2 with a 220 goals against and a 923 save percentage. Meanwhile, everybody's favorite Russian down there in South Florida, Sergei Bobrovsky, 17-3-3 with a 255 goals against, 919 save percentage net for the Panthers. Florida second in the league in goals per game behind only Colorado with 3.92 goals a night. The Stars are 19th at 2.88. Big issues, though, when you look at how things go in this venue. Panthers average 4.45 goals a game on home ice. When Dallas is on the road, they average 2. It's not a typo, 2. The Stars 3-7 in their last 10 against the Atlantic. They're 0-4 in their last 4 as a road underdog. Florida's 4-0 in their last 4 against teams with a winning record. They're 7-1 in their last 8 on 2 days of rest. They're 6-1 in their last 7 overall. And Jim, one more ugly stat for you if you're a Stars fan. Their last 15 road games coming off a home victory, the Stars are 1-14.
Oof. All right. Well, that's a kick in the chin. Let's go. We got the Ducks, but they're not at home this time.
No, and that's going to impact them here. They go on the road to face the Minnesota Wild. The Wild going off at -170. Ducks 19-13-7 this season. Minnesota 21-10-2 as they battle in the Central Division with Nashville and St. Louis for playoff positioning. Minnesota 3-1 on home ice. The Ducks 7-7-3 on the road. Minnesota, another explosive offensive team. They're third in the league at 3.58 goals per game. Anaheim 17th at 2.92. It's supposed to be Anthony Stolar, 6-4-1 with a 229 goals against, a 929 save percentage, and 2 shutouts for Anaheim instead of John Gibson. Cam Talbot looking to get the nod in net for Minnesota. He's 15-8-1 with 3 goals against and a 909 save percentage there. Anaheim 1-4 in their last 5 as a road underdog. They're 1-4 in their last 5 against the Central Division. They're 0-4 in their last 4 against Western Conference teams. Minnesota's 7-1 in their last 8 on one-day arrest. And the Ducks do not have luck in this series. They're 1-10 the last 11 times these two teams have met. That includes 5 consecutive losses at the Xcel Energy Center in Minneapolis. Look for the Wild to pick up home victory as the Ducks continue to struggle in this series with Minnesota. I don't understand why Anaheim has struggled so badly against them, but that's just the way puck drops.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the association as duck hunting is in full mode in Minneapolis. So moving on, we got the Phoenix Suns and the Indiana
speaking
Pacers.
of our favorite teams that we like to fade, it's the Indiana Pacers. They're at home. This line has actually come down a little bit. Phoenix was favored by 7. It's now 5.5. I don't understand it, but, that's the way things go sometimes. Suns 31-9. They've got the best record in the league. Indiana 15-27. Let's just say they don't have the best record in the league. Indiana 12-11 at home this season. Meanwhile, Phoenix is 14-4 on the road. Suns 6th in the league in both scoring offense and scoring defense. Meanwhile, Indiana 20th in scoring offense at 107.7 points per game. They are 17th in scoring defense. Malcolm Brogdon, he came out of the protocols. He played for part of the game Wednesday night against Boston. He left with an Achilles issue. He's questionable here. Torrey Craig also day-to-day with a quad injury. Chris Duarte is probable tonight. He left for the birth of his child, didn't play in Wednesday's game. Suns 7-2 in their last 9 against teams with a losing record. 16-5 in their last 21 on Friday. Indiana just 1-8 in their last 9 games. And the Suns have had success in Indianapolis. They're 7-3 against the spread in their last 10 meetings. CP3 is expected to take the floor tonight for the Pacers. He's probable with an illness. Just checking the injury report here one last time. Cameron Johnson questionable with an ankle sprain for Phoenix. Frank Kaminsky, Abdel Nader, Dario Saric all out, but those were injuries that have been going on for a while, so that's not unexpected. TJ McConnell still out for Indiana with after having wrist surgery. So you can't really trust the Pacers here. Our friend Elliot always tells you fade the Pacers. It's been profitable. It's definitely been profitable lately when you're 1-8 in your last 9. If you're facing the top team in the league, the Suns should take care of business there and drop the Pacers.
Moving on from Indiana, we're going to
Buzz City, the Hornets at home as they face the Lakeland Orlando I-4 dumpster fire Magic.
Right. Yes.
Charlotte 23-19. They're second in the Southeast Division, 3.5 games behind the Heat. Orlando 7-35. They're behind everybody. They have the worst record in the league. You just look at the next line there. Orlando has dropped 10 in a row coming into this one. Charlotte's won 7-9. They're coming off back-to-back wins over Milwaukee, followed by a win on the road against Philadelphia, snapping a 16-game losing streak to the 76ers that dated back to 2016. The Hornets second in the league in scoring offense at 115 points per game. The Magic 28th at 101.8 points per game. They're also 28th in field goal percentage, and they are 27th in three-point shooting. Wendell Carter is out with a hamstring injury for Orlando. Mo Bamba is listed as questionable with a toe sprain. Of course, Michael Carter-Williams, Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Ejuan Moore, none of them have seen the floor yet this season. They still won't see the floor tonight. The big missing piece for Charlotte, Kelly Oubre Jr., is in the protocols. He is out again tonight as well. Charlotte has won 4 of the last 5 meetings between these teams. Orlando 3-8 against the spread in their last 11 on Friday. 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 on one-day arrest. Charlotte 4-0 in their last 4 overall. 6-1 in their last 7 after an ATS win. 13-3 in their last 16 at home against teams with a road winning percentage of less than 400. The scariest thing about Orlando is they have a better record on the road at 5-20 than they do at home, where they're 2-15. But it doesn't matter here.
No, it's with a record like that, you wonder why aren't they in Phoenix, because it seems like all the Phoenix teams, have losing records at home. But no, the Magic, the ball is not bouncing their way. Let's just put it that way this time around. All right, so that we're leaving Charlotte, and from here, are we going to?
Well, we can go to the two.
Let's go for two for the money. Let's have some fun.
Covered the NFL already.
Yep, got the NFL out of the way. Yep.
Yep, the top two teams. I didn't bother talking about the top game here because Colorado is such a ridiculous favorite in this game. It's not even funny. I've seen it go as high as Colorado minus 600, minus 650. Even the puck line, they're going at minus 200 for winning by multiple goals. Let's face it, the Avalanche lead the league in goals per game. They're even more dangerous at home. The Coyotes, I know they won and beat Toronto the other night 2-1. But can you count on Vejmelka to make 45 saves in back-to-back games when you get outshot 46-18? I wouldn't bet on it. If he shuts down Colorado, then we'll stop picking on Arizona for a week or so. But I think the Avalanche should get the win there. Then, like we said, Akron over Kent State. Zip play good basketball. Kent State just lost in a game where they were favored by 15 points against the Northern Illinois team. They gave up 94 to Toledo, and Kent State only put up 63 against them. I'll take the Zips and get some points in that one. Then we said straight up, you can play the puck line, whichever is better for you. They're playing at home. They're dangerous at home. A lot of teams have found that out. Dallas, they beat Florida 6-5 in a shootout in Dallas last week. Unfortunately, this one's on the road, and like we said, Stars 1-14 in their last 15 on the road, coming off a home victory. Not a good stat to look at. And finally, the Suns over the Pacers. We've talked about how bad the Pacers are. They'll be even more impacted if Brogdon doesn't play with that Achilles injury. And let's face it, the Suns, they went to the finals last year. They're atop the league with their record at the midway point of the season this year. I have a hard time seeing them stumbling against an Indiana team that's lost 8 of their last 9.
Let's go to 4 for the money.
Yeah, like we said, we got Illinois minus 9 over Michigan. Like James pointed out, Michigan is dealing with COVID issues. They haven't played in 10 days. They've lost 2 in a row. Illinois won 5 straight. They've won 10 of 11. They've beaten some good teams in that stretch. You have to think that they can take care of business at home. Another big game for Kofi Cockburn. Maybe Trent Frazier gets in the mix, or Alfonso Plummer helps balance things out. Either way, it leads to a victory for the Fighting Illini. We talked about the Wild and the Ducks. The Ducks do not play well against Minnesota for whatever reason, losing 10 of their last 11 meetings and all 5 in Minnesota. I don't know how much more we can beat Orlando into the ground. We've talked about them enough. I don't think we need to go in depth as to why Charlotte should win that game. And Philadelphia, they're favored by 3.5 over Boston. Marcus Smart is questionable for the Celtics. Danny Green and Shake Milton out for Philadelphia, but they'll still have Embiid, Tobias Harris, Seth Curry, Tyrese Maxey and company. I just think, 76ers, they haven't played well at home this season, which makes no sense considering we've seen them suck on the road the last few years and play dominant basketball at home. Both these teams are playing the first game of the back-to-back. Boston will play at home tomorrow against Chicago. Philadelphia will go down to South Beach and face the Heat. I just like the 76ers because I just haven't been convinced with the way Boston plays. They play well for a couple games, then they go in the toilet, then they play well again, then they go in the toilet. It's just that kind of inconsistency is maddening from a perspective of trying to handicap a game. And I just think Philadelphia should bounce back after losing that game to Charlotte and get the win here in an Atlantic Division tilt.
And lastly, for those of you out there, here's a fun one. There's plenty of options. We like to give you options. So, Chris, talk about the options we're giving them for, the big one.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of different options. Take note, there's only 3 hockey games today, so once I gave you a pick on the side, I had to go with a total just so we didn't leave those out. In college basketball, I like the University of Buffalo. They're favored by 7. They go on the road to face Ball State. The Cardinals have struggled of late. We just talked about they lost to Akron earlier this week. Purdue, it's a big line, but you look and see they're playing Nebraska, and Nebraska's obviously not a good basketball team. They have issues on the defensive end of the floor. You have to think that Zach Edey and Trevion Williams should be able to put up plenty of points against a Cornhuskers team that has held just one of their last, two of their last 10 opponents under 70 points. Meanwhile, they've given up at least 100 twice, and they gave up 99 in the third game, not to mention 93 to Rutgers. You have to think Purdue, with that offense and the way they can attack the basket, it would be a surprise if Purdue doesn't get near the 90-point mark at least in that contest. Iona, Rick Pitino's boys, they get to face the Manhattan Jaspers at home. I like for the Gales to pick up the win there. They should play better than they did for that 2 o'clock start against Fairfield earlier this week. This game actually starting at a normal hour for college basketball. Dave Pitino's guys will be more on the ball there. We talk about in the NBA, Cleveland on the road over San Antonio. The Spurs just, I don't know what it is. They've changed their style, but it hasn't related to wins. They lost to Houston the other night. Disappointing performance. Speaking of Houston, they get to go on the road to face Sacramento in a game where defense is optional. The over-under on that game is set at 239 points. So apparently the book's not expecting much in the way of defense either. Kings at home, I look for them to win and cover the 5-point line. You got Chicago, they're at home, favored by 3.5 over Golden State. The Warriors playing the second game of a back-to-back. They were beaten 118-99 by the Bucks last night. Meanwhile, the Bulls, like we said, will be on the road to face Boston tomorrow in the second game of back-to-back. But I like the Bulls here. The Warriors have kind of sputtered a little bit. Even with Klay Thompson back, it's probably going to take a little time to get that mesh back up. I think Draymond Green, let's see if he's still ruled out tonight. Well, they haven't submitted their injury report as of yet. But I imagine he's still dealing with that calf injury. And then, like we said, in the hockey games, Coyotes and Avalanche over 6.5. Unless Vejmelka somehow finds a way to put a piece of plexiglass that doesn't break in front of him, you have to think Colorado can get 4 or 5 on their own. Then you've got Dallas and Florida over 6.5. These teams, like we said, they met last week in Dallas. It was a 6-5 game and a shootout. Florida averages 4.45 goals a night at home. You have to think that things will go their way here, and it'll end up in another high-scoring affair. And the Ducks and the Wild over 5.5. We said Minnesota's the third most dangerous team offensively in the league behind only Florida and Colorado. So it's interesting. We have the top 3 scoring teams in the league on the ice tonight. Look for them to push over the total with the Ducks in that contest.
Any questions that we want to approach before we head out here on Friday?
Well, James was asking about a game tomorrow between Ohio and I believe it was Central Michigan in college basketball. The Bobcats, they played really good basketball this year. They're 13-2 on the year. Coming into this one, they're facing a Central Michigan team that is, well, no bueno. They're 2-12. They're coming off a 31-point loss to Eastern Michigan in the battle of geographical teams from the Great Lakes State. Before that, they lost by 28 at home to Toledo. You have to think that Ohio, whose 2 losses this year, Jim, against Kentucky and LSU on the road. So they have, when those are your 2 losses,
You haven't had many bad losses.
Yeah, they've beaten Belmont. They beat Cleveland State, 2 good teams. Belmont we've talked about in the Ohio Valley, Cleveland State in the Horizon. They beat Marshall. They beat Akron last week on the road. We talked about, a good team that the Zips are. They beat Kent State last week. You have to think Ohio should have little problem beating the Chippewas of Central Michigan. Jeff Bulls and company would run to 14-2 with that victory.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else before we get out of here on a Friday afternoon?
Like Ray said, enjoy the NFL games, enjoy the people that are around you. in our case, my wife's grandfather is going to be with us this weekend. He's 89. So it'll be interesting to watch the game there. But yeah, moments like that, they don't come around all that often necessarily.
No.
So
it's
like,
fun. Go ahead.
Be happy your team's in the playoffs if they are. If they're not, hopefully you're not a Jets fan.
Yeah, I know that my mother, who's also 89, will be at my brother's house watching the Steelers in her Heinz Ward jersey. She'll be taking a nap all day so that she can stay up and watch that game. As we said,
hopefully she won't have to go to bed at halftime because the game's already over.
Right. So she'll be rooting it on, and but it is true, and that's the great thing about sports in general. It is something that can be enjoyed by family, it can be enjoyed by your friends, but the most important part is enjoy it. It's a game, okay? You wake up tomorrow, the sun's going to shine. Well, there may be snow, but you know what I'm saying. Metaphorically, it's only a game. So, enjoy it and understand that in these playoff situations, we said earlier, it's one and done. So you can have a bad day. That doesn't mean your team's terrible. That doesn't mean you fire the coach. Doesn't mean the quarterback is a knucklehead. It just means you had a bad day at the wrong time.
As Charlie Jones would tell you, the winner moves on. The loser goes home.
That's right. And what a great guy Charlie was. So we will leave you on the words of Charlie Jones in that situation. Chris?
If we're going to do with Charlie Jones, we should do this one.
Go ahead.
You got to love it. Unless you're in Houston.
Right. Oh, man. All right. You got to love it. So everybody have a wonderful weekend, a safe weekend, and come back and see us on Monday at 1:30. We will break down what happened over the weekend, and certainly there's going to be a lot that happened over the weekend. And we'll
also have Rams Cardinals to talk about.
That's right. We'll be able to talk about the Cardinals. So, and we won't have to talk about the beer being $15 at the where they play hockey. We'll get to talk about them playing at SoFi, where you probably get sushi for $20. So, anyway, have a wonderful weekend, everybody. For my partner in crime, Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying so long. We're going to have a lot of fun on the weekend. We will see you on Monday.